It was one of those long summer days back in the 70s when the bored kid started to play his game. It was as simple as playing a videotape and watching it at a high speed. The scene in that video contained a conversation between a Japanese man and his fellow American speaking in a living room. Although it was a bit funny to the kid, something seemed strange yet interesting to his father, who was watching from behind. He noticed that it seemed as if they were waltz dancing and the Japanese man was leading the dance. So the father wondered whether it was just a coincidence, or the same thing would happen each time this situation is repeated. Personal space plays a great part in our lives and affects the way we think and move. They also reveal lots of secrets about people's behavior. Welcome to From Nerd to Fun, and let's begin right now. It is very normal that we pick up a piece of paper that falls near our feet and bring it back to the one who slipped it. This means that we feel like we possess the layer of space that surrounds us. Body language tells us that every human being is surrounded by 4 zones. They are the public zone, which is the widest one where we stand at a fair distance from strangers, the social zone, which is a bit closer where we stand away from people like a postman or a carpenter, the personal zone where we allow relatives and friends to enter in, and lastly the intimate zone, which we never allow anybody to enter except for very close people like parents, children and lovers. We feel some kind of ownership over these zones, and we tend to take an action whenever we feel that this ownership is jeopardized. As a matter of fact, the expression, "they are close to each other," originates from the fact that those people permit each others to enter their personal and intimate zones. We can notice the same thing with animals. As a matter of fact, it is very crucial for them to define their own territories, and they always take an action once an animal or a human step on those territories. Animals defend their territories the same way humans defend their homes. This way it is easy to understand why, when we are sharing a table with a friend, we put our wallet, our watch and our cup of coffee in our half of the table and tend to protect it from our friend's personal belongings. Sometimes we might even find ourselves pushing back his belongings in case they passed that imaginary line that divides the table between the two of us. And this is also the reason behind why it gets awkward inside an elevator or in a crowded bus, as we are forced to invade each other's personal zones. Now let's imagine a robber intercepting his victim. One end of the road is a dead end and the robber is blocking the other end. Although the road is 15 feet wide whereas the robber is only standing on few inches of it, it gives the victim a perception that the robber is blocking the road. And this is because the victim not only sees the danger of the robber confined to his body but also extending to an area around him. And the victim himself visualizes his own body as bigger than normal. So it seems difficult to find enough space between the robber and the edge of the road to pass through, despite the fact that 9 or 10 people can stand shoulder to shoulder in this width. A different thing that is worthy to notice is that this theory is also valid to a great extent for our belongings. For example, a man and his wife may put their mobile phones next to each other's, and intimate friends at school may do the same, and in case that they have a strong relationship, they might even put their phones on top of each other's. On the contrary, although people may be sitting next to each other's in the library, they tend to put their phones as far as possible from each other's. And the same thing goes for coffee mugs, keys, glasses and so on. Something further happens when we repeatedly exist in a specific place. We start to develop an ownership of this place whether we are present physically in it or not. It is very noticeable that we find ourselves sitting in the same place in a classroom or a workplace, and we become annoyed if a new member finds his way to it. The same thing happens with a wife regarding the kitchen, and a child with his bedroom, and a grandfather with his rocking chair, for example. They all become annoyed when someone enters the space that confines these places. Using this, an experienced eye can differentiate between couples who have a good relationship and those who have a bad one. We can also refine our skills using this. For example, if you are in a situation where you are suspecting that someone spoke behind your back and the one who was being told these lies about you is refusing to speak about it with you, you can use the following technique. You can ask him directly an honest question while having your hand palm open to show honesty and openness while leaning toward him, which is the magical part. As you lean toward that person momentarily, you invade his privacy. This gives him a slight feeling of discomfort and an urge to tell the truth. After that, you lean back with your hand palms still open, giving him a chance to answer your question. Most probably he will open up to you after this endeavor. The same rule is applied during interrogations, as leaning toward the prospect pushes him and increases the chance that he breaks up and tells the truth. This also gives a hint about the Japanese man who was unintentionally leading the waltz dance. There are also some tricks related to this. We can notice that in most of the movie scenes where there is a challenge between two characters, directors intentionally get a close-up on the actors to show a very minimal distance between their faces to a point that sometimes makes the watcher feel irritated about it. In a scene that will end without a fight, this can be a very good substitute. It is also funny that we sometimes feel bad for machinery that their gear is working in a high proximity. We start asking ourselves, why did not the manufacturers increase the space between those gears? And the answer to this is simple, which is that they do not need a space like us to feel comfortable. So it comes down finally to calculating safety measures and machine efficiency. Now this true story is from a magic show. The magician performs a trick and steals the participant's watch from his hand, and then he asks the participant to help him wear the watch that he just stole. To the audience's surprise, it took the participant few moments before he realized that this was his own watch. It seems as if the participant momentarily lost possession of the watch once it was far from his space. These rules also apply while driving a vehicle, but with a little modification. As we enter a car, for example, this personal space extends to include the entire car. And the same way, we acquire an ownership feeling to the area surrounding the car. This explains well how a small-sized human is able to fly a plane or drive a train. This kind of integration between a man and a vehicle enables humans to manage and control vehicles regardless to their size. This way they can depend more on their instinct, which makes the task a lot easier than only analyzing gauges readings and paying attention to different sounds. For this very reason, we get intimidated from people driving very close to us even if they did not do us any harm. It would be the same feeling as that when someone maintains 1-inch distance between his face and ours while speaking to us. Although scientists give us accurate measures for these zones, it is never practical to take these measures for granted so as to apply them anywhere in the world, as they vary from one place to another. We can notice that these zones tend to be smaller in highly populated areas and bigger in less populated ones. And this is why the fast-playing video of the two men from different cultures looked like a dance. As the Japanese man have a smaller personal zone than the American, each one of them was trying to adapt to his spatial need. So the Japanese man kept approaching and the American kept stepping back, simulating a waltz dance. For the same reason, we notice that Asian people believe that Western people are cold while the latter believe that Asian people are too forward. Now, like always, if you have a question that you need an answer for, do not hesitate to post it below, and if you like the content of this video, please hit the like button, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the ring bell so that you can see our new videos.